let's put it bluntly. We can bond, we can negotiate, or we can acquiesce. And what's happened with North Korea, which I think is the real case of diplomatic malpractice, was that prior to 2002, the North Koreans had separated plutonium from their known route of acquiring nuclear weapons for up to 2 bombs. The Bush administration scuttled the agreed framework, and all those spent fuel rods that had been in storage inside North Korea were unfrozen. They separated the plutonium, and the North Korean arsenal has gone up to 10. And our policy has been essentially we've acquiesced to that because we don't negotiate with evil, we defeat evil, as Vice President Cheney said. So we've been unwilling to negotiate seriously with North Korea. And the military option, as unattractive as it is with Iran, is more unattractive in dealing with North Korea. General Gary Luck in the mid-90s said $1 million a trillion. 1 million casualties, $1 trillion if you want to go to war with North Korea. North Korea has made it clear that an attack on the nuclear facilities would be viewed as the initiation of a general war with North Korea and not some limited, what the policy analysts would call, counter-proliferation strike on their nuclear facilities. The same argument, I believe, holds in the case of Iran. The military option is severely constrained. And if we're not going to end up in the box where we're acquiescing to bad stuff that's happened because we're unwilling to negotiate, we have to tee up a serious diplomatic effort. And the prerequisite for that, and that's the main point I'm making tonight, is that a starting point, because we can't play their hand. We can only play out our hand. We have to clarify what our objective is. If we do that, we shift the onus from Washington to Tehran. When we make regime change the objective, we lose allies because Russia, China, states we need, if any solution or if any meaningful pressures can be brought to bear on Tehran, we lose them. They fall off. In the same way that occurred in 2002, 2003, when we made regime change the issue with Iraq, because the cardinal principle of international relations is state sovereignty. So we have to create for them what Tom Friedman has called, I'm going to even go less than 2 minutes, an excruciating choice. And the excruciating choice is clarifying the contradiction in Washington to heighten the contradiction in Tehran. The contradiction between radicals who are getting off on this radical this foreign policy, which does often offer an alternative vision of international relations, and is as Trita and Barbara brought in their comments, these are people who don't want to normalize relations because they're worried about contamination, how it would affect the regime, etc. And pragmatic conservatives, as well as the down-and-out reformers, who would be willing to reach a pragmatic arrangement on this. But when we make regime change the question, even those, just as we lose allies abroad in terms of bringing pressure on Iran, we lose the moderates and the pragmatic conservatives in Iran. These are people who can bring pressure to bear to reach a satisfactory resolution to the issue that is in accord with U.S. national interests, which is where I have my focus. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. We're going to go into questions. I would just take one of the moderators' privileges here and point out that we've heard about missed opportunities. We've heard about back and forth. We have Barbara's wonderful metaphor of the adolescents at the prom. I would only point out, and I take the privilege of age here, that in 1979, when I went to Tehran for my 10.5-week stint, our mission, the mission of our embassy at the time was to convey to the Iranian authorities, that time it was called the Provisional Government of Iran, that we, in fact, accepted the outcome of the revolution and were willing to establish relations on a new basis. Now, that was, you could say that was another huge missed opportunity for all kinds of reasons. You talk about the reasons it didn't work. Perhaps it was the admitting the Shah. Maybe it was the chaos inside chaos inside Iran or battle inside Iran, but it was another huge missed opportunity. All right, let's go to questions. Do you have Heidi? Do we have a microphone?
Yes.
Microphone. Please identify yourself and please keep your questions brief and focused. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Jeff Steinberg. I want to thank the panel for reinforcing the view I had coming into this meeting tonight, which is that the one place where there's not ambiguity about what the policy towards Iran is going to be by the administration is in the Vice President's office, and I think he's already decided that there has to be a military attack against Iran before the administration leaves office, unless he's convinced that Giuliani is going to be the next president and Norman Podhoretz is going to be National Security Advisor, so there's a regime with enough gumption to be able to actually finish the job. I'd like to get the panelists' description about what you think the consequences would be were there to be an American strike against Iran before they leave office. What does that spell for the future of the region, the future of the United States, and the eyes of the rest of the world?
Who would like to take this?
Well, I deal with this in the book. I said actually in the book, you have to finish your book. There's a sort of a lead time of a few months before it actually goes into print. So I said the price of oil will go over $100 a barrel. Of course, it's already almost there. So it'll go to $150, $200 a barrel. Iran will pull out the stops and will start sending those EFPs back into Iraq. You'll see American soldiers. There are 160,000 American hostages in Iraq right now. It will attack there. It will attack through Hezbollah. It will attack through Hamas, and it might do something it's never done before, which is actually attack Americans in their homeland. Only Al Qaeda has done that. There are many, many ways in which Iran would and could retaliate, and would be within its rights in retaliating, given that the United States would be carrying out an act of aggression against Iran. According to the latest IAEA report, Iran does not have nuclear weapons, and there is still no proof that Iran is developing nuclear weapons. So most of the world would certainly see it as unprovoked. And the U.S. position, my goodness, in the Muslim world, well, it's already terrible. So, how can you go from single digits down to, I don't know, to minus? It would be a catastrophic event for U.S. prestige and standing in the world, and would leave the next president in such a hole that I think it would take generations for the U.S. to dig out.
Two things to what Barbara just said. A, we shouldn't forget that we have a population in Iran that generally tends to be quite positively inclined towards American values, American culture, and American people, which is the biggest contradiction in the Middle East when it comes to that. While we're at single digits in Jordan, Pakistan, and Saudi Arabia, strong U.S. allies, moderate Arab states. In Iran, you actually have the opposite. You have people that tend to view the United States positively. Not necessarily U.S. foreign policy, but America. And I don't think that differentiation is difficult for them because they like their own country, whereas they may not like the policies of their own government. So they apply the same standards on other countries. And I think it would be a devastating loss of a strategic asset that we have in the Middle East right now, that at least there is one populous country in which America has the good potential of having strong soft power. So while we have to win the hearts and minds of the people of the Middle East, and we're working hard at it apparently, in Iran all we need to do is to make sure that we don't lose it. Secondly is the cause for democracy in Iran, I think, would be set back for at least 1 to 2 generations. In a military confrontation, you would see the most radical elements being able to come to the reins of power, and they will use the excuse of the national security threat to eliminate anyone who is descending from them. We all already heard this just the other day. President Ahmadinejad was saying that anyone who doesn't agree with him is a traitor and has the IQ of a goat. That's at a time when the war actually hasn't started, but the tensions already has given the Iranian government the pretext to be able to clamp down tremendously on the Iranian civil society, on pro-democracy activists. And that would just be intensified